Dinah, I'm so appreciative of your time and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's great to be here, Wendy. I'm so excited to be on your podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you here. This is the most fun and fabulous thing of all the fun and fabulous things I do. So I'm so grateful for this platform and what it does for me personally every week. My listeners know I record on Thursdays and I am not the same woman on Thursday afternoon that I was on Thursday morning because of these expansive, beautiful, aligned conversations. And I'm just so anticipatory of this being another one of those.
Great. Well, I'm so happy to be part of that journey.
Thank you. And I'd love to start off with hearing how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Well, in this season, eh, I live in Panama, and so seasons are windy and rainy. So,
Perfect.
so that's it doesn't really matter what it is; it's always wonderful. And so part of the glory of being here is that it was a very deliberate decision to move here. I'm a Canadian, and so I know all about changing weather and seasons and whatnot, and I know all about work pressures and kind of political systems and whatnot. And so my decision to move here 2 years ago was really based on setting some new guidelines, some new parameters, some new bumpers for myself. And so I made the deliberate decision, sold everything, and came here because I can practice my passion here as a health coach. It doesn't matter where I am, and I've found just a glorious community here, and just a great set of supports and encouragements and opportunities.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
that's kind of how I'm saying yes to myself.
I love that so much. And when I reference season, I really believe there are seasons in a woman's life, and you are in this beautiful season of deliberate creation, which is so gorgeous. I'd love to know. I mean, I want to talk about everything that's on your heart, but I'm really interested to know what made you choose Panama and this particular gorgeous portion of Panama. We did have a woman on the show several months ago, Melissa Darnay, who relocated to Panama City
Mm,
from the Houston area, and she's a realtor. And so she helps expats
mm,
move into this beautiful place. And she also mentioned how she found community and that it's very
mm.
vibrant and was the perfect, um, all the cooperative components came together for what is really setting her up for a beautiful season in her life. It sounds like the same is happening for you. And I'm so eager to hear about your process because I think one thing that can feel scary and can keep us stuck in doing something big and bold and audacious as moving is this perceived void of community.
Mhm.
So I would love
Yeah,
to hear how it's been for you and how you, what deliberate things you did to have the experience you're having.
yeah. Well, it was, I think about 20 years ago or so, I sort of stumbled into this newsletter called International Living.
Ooh.
And they have, I think it's about 60 different people on the ground in different countries. And so they report regularly. You get a free newsletter every month and they talk about stuff. And then every year they do a rating. And I was sort of surprised to see that Panama was in the top three, like even way back then. And that had not occurred to me. I had visited Guatemala before, Mexico, and I knew about Costa Rica, so I wasn't surprised when Costa Rica was in the top three. But Panama was a surprise. So it was just sort of a seed that, that was planted there. And then, the years go on, and I'm caring for my mother, and she's quite ill with dementia. And she died just before the pandemic. So I thought,
Mm.
okay, I don't have that tie anymore. And then the pandemic sort of really played havoc with all the social connections. And
Right.
so the connections that I had before were sort of, I don't know, less relevant, and we were talking on Zoom, and we were, like things just sort of shifted.
Sure.
And so that meant that I could continue to do those things from anywhere, really. And so I thought, well, this is it. This is the time. I'm going to move. And I had a fabulous experience selling my place. It went in 6 days, which was kind of scary because now I'm really going, right? And
Right. I just have to
and
stop you for a second. My face is sore from smiling so big. I love this story and I love the power of story that even though this happened like 6 years ago, I feel like I'm in it with you and it's so thrilling. Please
yeah,
continue.
yeah, so I had been doing research on Panama, of course. I hadn't actually been here, but I had some pretty good data points. And I knew some people who had been there. And, so I started collecting all this data. And I thought, okay, I'll go and I'll do a, kind of a little road trip to stop in a few places to see how I like it. And well, that was sort of amusing because when I landed, we were in the middle of a national protest,
Oh, good
and
times.
the, yes, and the roads
How
were blocked.
un-Canadian.
Well, this is in Panama. Yeah, I was,
Right,
and
exactly.
yeah, and well, the source of the problem was a Canadian mine. So I was very worried that
Oh,
I would be, the target of very negative sentiments. And but that wasn't the case at all. Panamanians are just such a generous people, and they were quite happy to welcome me as a Canadian. They knew darn well I wasn't a miner, so that went fine, except that it interrupted my tour because the
sure.
roads were closed. So I ended up staying longer than I had expected in my initial landing place, and that was a pretty nice place to be stranded. It was on the beach, and in one of these beautiful beach communities, not far from Coronado. And yeah, and I bought a car, which was a great. I got my visa sorted out. That was great. And so then when the barricades lifted in early December, I was able to continue my route and to, visit some of the other places. But as soon as I landed in Buquete, it's a mountain community. It's
Okay.
near the volcano, and it's quite high. We're up at about 3,000 feet here. So the temperature is quite different than down at the coast. So it's only 35 kilometers away, but
Okay.
it's about a 20 Fahrenheit, 20-degree Fahrenheit difference in temperature. So
Wow.
yes, so that suits me perfectly. And so, here there are a lot of expats, so you can speak Spanish, you can speak English. There's a lot of other languages floating around here. And I speak several languages, so that's, fine with me too. And yeah, there's all kinds of outdoor things to do here. There's bee and butterfly sanctuary. There are coffee plantations. There are hikes that you can do all over. There's zip lining. There's like a kind of, well, it's kind of a river rafting experience. So there are lots of things to do that are just fantastic. And I've done just about everything I can find, and I'm on the second round because it's just a great place to be. And yeah, it's very easy to make friends here. You know, People have all come here with a deliberate notion of finding community and
Right.
starting something fresh. And it's like there's this filter that brings these people together, and it's just been lovely. So
Oh,
I'm volunteering in the community, which is great to get to know people. It's great to be of service. And yeah, so it's been just a lovely process of integrating myself into this new life.
Oh my goodness. I have a very dreamy life. So I know one when I see one. And I love that you created this beautiful experience for yourself and that
Mm,
you just kept going, not because it was hard, but because the breadcrumbs just kept showing up for you. And one thing led
mm,
to the other, which led to the
yeah,
other, which led to this group of people. And even your
yeah.
quote unquote time of being stranded was so beautiful and comfortable and in service to you.
Hmm.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful, Dinah. I love this for you. And I don't
Yes.
mean to sound shocked by things going well, but this is really, really special. Why do you think it happened so easily for you?
Well, there's a mindset about it all, eh?
It's a trick question. I
Yeah,
know why.
it's yeah, it's a mindset. And when you're open to new experiences and when you're curious, and it's just, having that curiosity, and even fear. I won't say that there weren't fearful moments, but the fear is part of the experience, and when you experience fear, then there's growth attached to the fear.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, and so, you sort of figure out, oh, I'm feeling resistance, I'm feeling some tension here. What's happening? What is this? And just ask, and then the answers land and you think, oh, okay, I've done this before. This is nothing dangerous. This is just new and exciting. And instead of fearful, it's exciting.
I love
So,
that. And I love how sometimes fear, like you said, we can speak to it and it's okay. We've done this before. And sometimes the answer is, okay, we haven't done this before, but it's
mhm,
okay. Like
yeah,
I've got you. We can soothe ourselves through these uncomfortable and unfamiliar circumstances
yeah.
because fear might have a voice, but it doesn't get the keys to the car.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
How has this, I mean, obviously you had these practices and these mindset principles were already a part of your routine prior to this. But how have you implemented this in your life? Because obviously it's working for you, and people always want to hear more about what's working.
Yeah, well, so I guess, going back, it's been a part of my life for quite a while. So I was exited from corporate life in my early 50s. And from that point on, I had always intended on becoming self-employed and to, do other things. But, when you're pushed out, it's sort of not as nice as when you are the one that takes the step. So I
Right.
said, okay, here's the situation. I can, how I react is up to me. I
Mhm.
can choose to take this as an opportunity and to step in it with, relish and gusto. And or I can play the victim and moan and groan and go, oh, ageism and terrible and everything, um, so then I thought about it and I thought, okay, I still need to work. So what am I going to do? And I knew that corporate was not really the best place for me anymore. I had, I mean, I sort of anticipated being exited, so I'd had some number of interviews with other people and other companies, and they had all mysteriously, gone away, and I couldn't
Mm.
really understand why, but I figured, well, whatever. It's probably ageism. I don't know what it is. Anyway, that's not something I can control, but what I can control is picking something where my age is an attribute, where it's a
That's right.
benefit.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, what could that be? And then I thought, well, if I was to help women who had a similar challenge as I did, and that was with perimenopause, then that would probably be a good place to be. So
Right.
perimenopause is not dealt with almost at all in the traditional medical system, and I had found a lot of problems. Mine was quite long, 13 years.
Oh,
So, it's not like a flash in the pan. You really have to figure things out and get through it. So yeah, so that's what I thought I would do, and I started first of all just with lifestyle approaches, and
mhm.
that was great. But then I stumbled into the integrative health practitioner area, and
Okay.
that exposed me to functional medicine testing. And
Okay.
now you had something. So I can deal with esoteric things, but it's really nice to have data and science-based grounding to it all, So I mean,
Right. That
I've
also promotes your inner feeling, your emotion about what is happening.
yeah,
Because I think what, I mean, you obviously you didn't know perimenopause was going to be 13 years. None of us
no,
know how long this is going to be. We just know that something isn't right and we can discount it and give it, oh, it must be work stress. Oh, it must be mom stress. Oh, it must be no job and no children stress, like whatever the things, like we talk ourselves out of what's happening because we think that, oh, that doesn't mean us, or it's not a hot flash, or it's not something that's on the what that was in some comedy sketch 10 years ago because nobody is talking about this.
right.
Then to know that you are, I mean, I think I'll speak for myself. My conditioning says when something's not right with my body, that I go to the doctor and they have the answer. And I had a woman on the podcast just a few weeks ago, Dr. Sophie Din, and she gave me this beautiful nugget of wisdom that is quite obvious, but just didn't ever sink into me that doctors are looking for sickness, and
Yes.
the health insurance
Yeah,
industry is about
exactly.
sickness management,
Yeah.
and you are looking for wellness and wellness management. And yes, you pay for that. And that's okay because wellness is worth the price that you're paying. So sometimes there's
Yeah.
this, there can be, there certainly was for me, that if something is not covered by my insurance, it means I'm not allowed to have it, which, and these are ridiculous words for anyone that ever hears me talk, but those
Yeah.
unchecked
Yeah.
thoughts that are on constant replay, so I'm not allowed to have it, or it's not legitimate because other, if it was legitimate and not whatever, a witch doctor, whatever nonsense people talk about non-traditional Western medicine that has been around longer than traditional Western medicine, um, that it is not, that you can't count on it. It's
Mm.
not worthy of your time, which is why it's not covered by your insurance. I realize that these thoughts are ridiculous. And I am still saying them out loud in case somebody else is allowing that soundtrack to go unchecked for themselves. So
Yeah.
please continue with your
Yes.
enlightenment that has come from these practices.
Well, I was really let down by my doctor when I
Yeah.
saw them. And so I was the one who had to bring up the whole perimenopause thing because once I had a hot flash, I knew what it was. But that was only 2 years in, right?
Yep.
I had other symptoms before that. And yeah, and so the doctor tried to body shame me, and I wasn't having that. That was
Right.
just not on. And now I look back on it and I think, yeah, okay, traditional doctors are looking for sickness,
Mhm.
and they are looking to solve, to address, to manage symptoms with pharmaceuticals, right? And so that's the pattern. And there are other ways of doing it. right? So their tests are quite good for the purpose, but because perimenopause is not an illness, of course, all the imbalances, the very subtle imbalances, are not meant to be caught on these tests.
Right.
So
And
yeah, so
because that is not what it's set up for, the
right,
experience that a woman has often is being discounted
that's right.
just because she's in the wrong room, not because she's not having the experience she's having.
Yeah, yeah. But the impact, a lot of the women tell me that they are quite concerned when the doctor says everything's fine, your
Right.
tests are normal. And they're basically saying we can't help you. And
Mhm.
if anything, they'll treat some symptoms. They'll, insomnia with sleep aids, depression with some kind of mood enhancer, blood pressure medication. Right? So they'll sort of poke at it like that. But of course, there are side effects to a
Right.
lot of these medications. And with some of them, with the antidepressants, it's actually 80% of people have side effects.
Mhm.
And the sleep disorders, it's more like 60. So those are very high odds
Yeah.
to go into. And and for a lot of women, these prescriptions don't really solve the problem, right? They,
Right.
they and they introduce new problems. So this whole approach was definitely not one that I wanted to go on, and so I hear about it all the time that this is what traditional medicine is doing, and it's simply because there's a lack of education. So there 80% of doctors have no idea about perimenopause really or menopause because it's not in the medical school curriculum.
Right. And
So
they remember whatever their dad said about their mom when she was in her crazy era or whatever. Like
yes,
it's so
yeah,
maddening when you think about it for
yeah,
a hot minute because it really is ridiculous. And
yeah.
we can acknowledge that and have our opinion and have our feeling about it and then not expect an entire system to change, but to take the steps that are in alignment for us to get the care and the relief that we desire.
Yeah. Well, and women have been told for generations and probably centuries that their physical ailments aren't important,
Right.
right? Yeah, so unless you have some, full-blown disease, um, women are just told to deal with it and suck it up. So this is all part of it. And on top of that, there's the piece about I'm not important enough. I'm taking care of everyone else. I'm at the bottom of the list.
Mhm.
So for women to actually make the decision to heal themselves is significant, right? That's a big decision.
And to
So
pay for the healing
yeah,
of themselves.
yeah, yeah.
Because just like you said, we're at the bottom of the list in care. We
Hmm.
also put ourselves at the bottom of the list for where resources are allocated to
Yes.
us for fun or for care.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that ranking system doesn't work for me at all.
And
That's
nobody, yeah, and it
no.
doesn't work for us either, but it goes unchallenged because
Yeah.
nobody's mad that we are discounting our own existence so they don't have to out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the old adage where you have to put on your own oxygen mask
For
first
sure.
so that you can help others. So if you're insistent on your role being helping others, that's perfect. That's very noble.
Mhm.
But if you aren't caring for yourself, then that desire is going to be diminished.
Right. And
And
I love
and
that example. And we hear it all the time, but it
yeah.
actually is not just in the event that the cabin loses pressure. Like it is
Yes.
in the, like, this is supposed to be our total practice. And
Right.
even the, who is it? The FAA, even they know. that we do not prioritize our own care. So they make sure
Hmm.
we hear it at the beginning of every flight. But this is what we should hear at the beginning of every day. Put
Yes.
on your mask first. We talk about on this podcast a lot about giving from your saucer. So you fill your cup up, and then when it overflows to the soft saucer, that's what we give from. And when our saucer is empty, we fill our cup again, which doesn't take very long because it's already at the top. And then we can give from our saucer again.
Indeed.
Okay,
Yes.
please continue.
Well, when I discovered this functional medicine testing, I was very excited because then it wasn't a set of guesswork. So, the whole lifestyle approach was valid, but it didn't it didn't pinpoint some key things that are going on. So, with these tests, we can determine hormone levels, not just what they are on the one day when traditional medicine tests them, but we can determine the whole cascade pattern from when they are
Mm,
formed, when they are used, and then when they are metabolized at the end, right? So you could see how that works. And not just that those cascade patterns, but you can also see the ratios with other hormones, which of course is very important. And for a lot of women, it's that ratio that's the key, right? So their estrogen level may be fine, but in relation to progesterone or testosterone, it's off. And then, of course, you feel it. And there are
yes.
many ways in which you feel it. It could be energy, it could be weight, it could be brain fog, right? There are a lot of different things that can happen. So when you start saying, you can pinpoint exactly where these imbalances are happening, then it becomes a lot easier to develop customized programs
Mm,
for supporting these imbalances, getting at that root cause and fixing the root cause, and then coming out a couple of months later in a nicely balanced state, re-energized and ready to go again.
mm.
So that to me just sounded fantastic. And so I jumped right in. I said, I have to do that. And
Right.
yeah, so now I do.
Well, you are the poster child for it. It's so good because it clearly has had the desired effect
Yes.
on you. So,
Yeah.
how long was that? Is that something that is continuous? Is it something that you were able to find something that brought you into balance and that became the practice for you? Or how does it work after you then get this information?
Yeah. Well, so I of course used myself as the guinea pig as I was, starting the going to go through the program. And so, the first magic thing is the detox. So
Mm,
before you do anything, even, well, you can take the test, but you won't have the results, so you don't know what the results are. That takes a couple of weeks. And so then you start with it with this detox. And what that's intended to do is it's not like a juice cleanse or something sort of simple. This is more of a liver pathway elimination. So what you want to do is you want to unclog the drain, before you work on further draining systems, right? You want to make sure
okay.
that it's not blocked up. And so this detox system was fantastic, and it dealt with some inflammation that I had, and it just made you feel lighter and just okay. Some brain fog lifted, so that was kind of a really nice quick hit for
Sure.
a first benefit. And then once I got the results of the test, I found that I had heavy metals, which is pretty normal. If you've never done a heavy metal detox, then when you get to be, anything over about 30, you're probably ready to do a heavy metal
Right.
detox. And I had some candida, which was, gut-based overgrowth, which was a bit of a problem. I
Okay.
had some parasites, which is also not so surprising when you get to be, like that's something you should probably do every year or two to,
Wow.
get rid of parasites because that can cause problems. And I also had some food sensitivities that I didn't know about. So it was, these were all very treatable things. And
Right.
as I went through the protocols, I wasn't in a huge rush to get them all done. So it took me about 9 months to get that
Okay.
done, go through all the different cycles. And yeah, it made a huge difference. My sleep was better, my energy is up, my skin cleared up. It just so many things improved that yeah, it's when I see people that have these particular problems, I think, oh, yeah, I think we can probably fix that. And
Right.
it's wonderful to know that those tools exist.
Yes. And I love that you took your experience and now you're using that to help others.
Yeah.
So, what is the path that your clients take?
Well, the path would be first of all an intake. Well, no. First, there's the discussion to see whether they're willing to invest the energy. Are they good candidates for this? Because
Sure.
this is not an automatic. This is not a silver bullet, right?
Right.
It means some changes to your eating patterns. It means some probably some movement, exercise changes like resistance training and that kind of thing, right?
Sure.
It means some meal planning and whatnot, so that lifestyle piece takes a little bit of effort
Right. And
to
probably,
invest in.
yes, and some coaching through that because a lot of
Yes.
the resistance to doing those things
Things.
are because you're frustrated at what your body feels like and you're tired and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
grumpy. So it's the things that are keeping you from wanting to do it are also keeping you from changing the what your life experience is. So
Exactly.
understanding that the trade-off is not just adding something else that's uncomfortable to your list. It's doing this thing that is unfamiliar, but like you said, the quick hit that you got, but the results, once you see results, I mean, that's what
Mm-hmm.
makes, for me, that's what makes anything uncomfortable worth it.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
morning practice that begins at 4:45 in the morning. And when I tell some people, they're like, oh my gosh, I could not get up that early. I was like, well, once you have the experience of clarity and connection with the
Mhm.
divine that I have, like 4:30 doesn't come fast enough. Like I can't wait to get after that again. It's so good. So I'm assuming that it's a similar situation that once you can do the mindset work, which is a huge part of what your work is with clients, obviously, that you kind of un unhook that door
Mhm.
that says this is not just one more thing to add to your list to make your days frustrating. This
Yeah.
is not about a restriction. It's about expansion.
It is. It is. And there's also the challenge of first of all, we're dealing with an area that no one talks about, perimenopause, right? So that's kind of a bridge to cross. And so there's a lot of yeah, well, misinformation or no information there, right?
For
And so
sure.
that's one bridge to cross. And the other one is the experience with traditional medicine and how it's very pill based, which is
Right.
supposed to give very quick relief. And it may be quick relief for some things, but not for other things. And there's often a cost associated with those, with those pharmaceuticals. So I mean, a cost in terms of reactions, not getting to the root cause, that you get other side effects that kick in. And of course, there's the money attached to it, but
Sure.
that's probably the least of people's worries
Right.
um, with, insurance programs and whatnot. But so there's this whole shift in people wanting to take control of their health, basically, is where we need to get to. And once they understand what some of these signals are, because all these symptoms are just signals, right? The body is saying there's something happening here that shouldn't be happening or that we're not happy with,
Right.
right? And if all you do is stifle those symptoms, you haven't really got to a good place. So, once we can figure out what those root causes are, then we can resolve them, and that brings a whole new day. That's a very different life situation. And one of the things I ask at the beginning is, do you have any life goals that you haven't yet accomplished? And this is one of the things for women in that kind of midlife area is it's often an opportunity to start considering things that they'd never considered before. If they're constantly caring for other people, but in midlife, the children are perhaps growing up, there may or may not be a life partner. And then it's time to sort of, put your head up and go, okay, it's time for me now.
Right.
And if you have that kind of a goal, then suddenly, having your good health to chase that goal, to achieve those objectives, it becomes a lot more worthwhile.
Absolutely. Because we do get stuck in this story. I hear it a lot from my clients. I lead culinary trips to France for solo female travelers, and I
Mhm.
hear next year I'm going to go, next year, next year, next year, next year. And then,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, I need a knee replacement, or oh, I can't go because I did this, or now I'm caring for my aging parent. And it's so fascinating because what we think we're doing in being in service is really just outsourcing the living of our own lives.
Hmm. Yeah,
Let's stop
yeah,
doing that, ladies. How about
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah,
And if it
yeah.
feels hard or you feel like your time is past, then it sounds like connecting with you, Dinah, is a really fabulous next step.
Mm. Yeah, I love talking about the mindset stuff with
Yes,
people. Yes, because that's where where the value comes in, right? Where
that's the
it's
juice.
yeah, it's just gold to be able to achieve new goals with a body that's functioning as you expect and as you want. And and a lot of women have counted on their body in performing and have sort of taken it for granted over the
For
years. They
sure.
they they think they know it, and then suddenly, when all these hormone shifts happen, it impacts all this other stuff, right? All this gut stuff, food sensitivities, the things pile up in the heavy metal department, right? Parasites suddenly become a problem, and they respond to the change in hormones. So, it's like a trigger, right? And
Mhm.
traditional medicine is only looking at the reproductive hormone piece.
Yes.
So if you get HRT, that might help, but that is probably only part of the solution.
Yeah.
So, dealing with the whole solution in a holistic manner, I think is such a gift that women can give themselves. And it took me a while to discover this particular pathway, but I've been so delighted to do that. And and to see the results that can come from it is really just fills my heart.
Oh, for sure. Well, I can tell you are living proof of using this methodology yourself, but then also sharing it with your clients. It's so beautiful. So, where can someone start and when should they start? Like, is there a threshold of time? Like, this is best if you are 57 and a half years old, or is this best before or after? What do you find with the clients you work with is kind of a sweet spot, or what is too late, I guess is more the question.
Well, I don't know about too late. I don't think
Good.
it's ever too late. But of course, the sooner the better, because then you get more time in your balanced body, and in being able to appreciate what you have, what you create around you. So, women, it really depends on where the symptoms are. I
Yeah.
can I can also work with other groups, that don't have specific perimenopause symptoms. I can work with men if I want, and here there I have a couple of clients that I see in person, which is odd. Um, but they're not perimenopausal, right?
Right.
And so I can do that, but that's not where my passion lies.
Right.
So it's really where when women are starting to notice that they're being dragged down by something, when they don't recognize their body, when they have the experience from the doctor saying your tests are normal, right?
Right.
And they know it's not normal. Um, my real sweet spot would be dealing with career women who have a lot to lose if their productivity and their performance at work starts to suffer,
For
right?
sure.
That can derail career trajectories in
Mhm.
in really terrible ways. I know for me, I turned down turned down. I didn't turn it down. I stepped back, so I wasn't considered from a promotion. My company was taken over by Alcatel, and the headquarters. I was in a headquarters function. I was director of marketing for a large part of the organization, and my part of the organization was being transferred to Belgium.
Oh,
So I thought, okay, am I going to be moving to Belgium? And I thought, I can't handle this. I've just gone through a divorce. I'm feeling terrible. I don't know what's going on with my body. I have some kind of a support network here. I can't see myself just up and moving, taking on new job responsibilities when I have all this baggage. And so I can see that, this is exactly what could happen with any women who are faced with this opportunity and they just sort of recuse themselves because it's too much work. So yeah, so they're the ones with the most to lose because they've
right.
got the home life going on and they have to try and balance that with a busy professional life. And they probably don't really understand what the heck it is that's going on, but they don't like it. And
Right. Oh, what a powerful invitation. Thank you so much. I do have one more question, and I'm happy to edit it out if you would prefer not to share. But I would love to know just so the background to this question is I was a wedding planner for 30 years, and
Mm,
often I was the first vendor that was invited into the planning process.
all
And
right.
when I would share my fee, there would be a lot of shock because they just don't know what they don't know. And they're like, oh, well, we only budgeted $1,000 for a planner. Like, well, that's nice, but you've never done this before, and I've been doing it for 30 years. So how about I tell you how much you should budget for a planner instead of you? So all to say, there was a lot of education that was a part of my role in you can you can try to do this yourself, and you are going to most likely end up spending more money than
Yeah,
investing
yeah.
in the professional. So all of that
Yeah.
to say, I love normalizing by speaking out loud what the estimated cost is for these things,
Hmm.
because sometimes people get really excited and then they
Hmm.
go to the website and they click the button and they see whatever 9,000 euros for a trip to Paris with me or whatever. And they're like, oh, I can't do it. It's like, no, everything inside your body that excited you to go do it meant you were supposed to do it. Don't let
Hmm.
this data point that you are experiencing in a somewhat private way because you're just pushing a button on your phone to keep you from saying yes to yourself and your health and your body and your well being and your future. So, again, not to persuade you to answer the question, but I'm really
Hmm.
interested in if someone is wanting to start this journey with you based
Yeah.
on your experience, what seems to be the financial investment for that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. So I charge for the coaching piece
Mhm.
is separate from the testing piece,
Perfect.
which is separate from the supplement piece. So
Of
they're
course.
kind of a three-part program. And what I can predict is the consulting piece, right? The coaching through, and that's
Right.
through a 4 month process. We meet every 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And so there's an ongoing monitoring and all that kind of thing. And I'm available on email and whatnot. And I charge 13.97 for that 4 month period.
Okay, perfect.
And then depending on our discussion with the intake and whatnot, we'll determine what kind of tests are being taken.
Right.
And then that, of course, has a certain cost. So if you were to do the big five, which is the sort of first recommendation, I guess, is that this is the best way to go. And that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,200 for
Okay.
the five tests. These are at-home tests, so you don't have
Okay.
to go anywhere. And they test saliva, blood spot, hair, stool, and what's the other one? And urine.
Okay.
So there are five different kinds of testing that, of biosamples that are taken. So much
Sure.
more comprehensive than the
Blood test.
traditional blood
Right.
draw. Yeah. And so then based on the results of those tests that are taken, there's a series of supplementation that would probably take, another 3 to 4 months
Sure.
to get the rebalancing in. I would probably recommend an ongoing set of supplementation just because certain things nobody gets enough omega-3s. So having
Okay.
omega-3s as an ongoing supplement, taking a kind of a multivitamin approach is a good idea, right? So there's some things that would probably go on, but
Sure.
that supplementation could cost, between 400 or 500 a month for that first little bit.
Okay.
And then it would drop down significantly after that. So that's
Sure.
kind of a sense of the three pieces.
Right.
There's the coaching piece, the testing piece, and then the supplementation piece. I might
Okay.
also recommend at the end of the program that we retest to
Right.
determine, right, to see the change and to see
For
whether
sure.
there's still something going on. And if there's still some symptoms, there might be still something going on. And the body is a changing thing,
Yes, it
right? So
is.
so there could be some things going on. So yeah, so that's kind of how it works. It's not like a flat fee because
Right.
people have different needs,
Sure.
and there's no point in having tests if there's no need to have a test. But
Right. Oh, thank you
yeah,
so much. I really appreciate that information because I think it's helpful. And it is a data point for a lot of people. And so
yeah,
already having those numbers in your head is helpful once they go to the website and do
yep,
some further research. So, to that end,
yep.
please tell everyone where they can find and follow you and how they can interact with your work.
Yes, I'd love to. So I have a YouTube channel that's called at Perimenopause Relief. And my website is at holisticnutritionlifestyle.com.
Perfect. Well, we will link everything down in the show notes. I have loved this conversation, Dinah. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your joy.
It's been marvelous to share with a like-minded person, I'm so happy that you invited me.
Thank you. I can't wait to chat again.
Okay.